Returning to work after parental leave isn't just a calendar event, it's an identity shift. Today's guest helps parents navigate that with purpose and shows us how AI can support them along their journey. Welcome to the AI Empowered Mom podcast. AI Empowered Mom is on a mission to reduce the mental load of parenthood through AI assistance, helping parents delegate tasks that drain them and reclaim their time and joy. I'm Sarah Dooley. I'm the founder of AI Empowered Mom and the host of the AI Empowered Mom podcast. And today I am delighted to be joined by Anna Minto, a Harvard-educated leadership coach, strategic advisor, mom of three. Anna previously served as a partner at Heidrick & Struggles and a partner and MD at BCG, Boston Consulting Group. She advised executive teams on complex business transformations, and today she's advising on complex transformations with families, helping high-performing professionals, especially working parents, navigate big transitions with intention and confidence. We're going to talk about returning to work after parental leave, the identity shifts of modern parenting, and I'm most excited to talk to Anna about how she infuses and uses AI in her work and with other parents. Anna, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm delighted to be here.
Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself and your family life?
So I have three grown and flown children, lovely people. My daughters turned 25 and 30 this weekend. So kind of like, whoa, a whole new era. Not into the grandparenting stage yet, but we'll see what happens. And my girls have especially been my inspiration. Watching them get into the working world, watching them transition in that way has been absolutely delightful.
Well, Anna, how do you use what you observe with your own children in your help with working parents, the ways that you coach them? How do you apply any lessons from your family to those outside?
So I have to be a little careful because I have my own experiences of three kiddos, but I've had almost 500 clients now coming
Wow.
through the parenting phase. So I've learned so much from them, and they are so much more educated than we were 20 years ago in delivering. Personally, I found when my daughter became 13, and that's the point at which I had to stop working and traveling as well, not working, but traveling as much because I think she needed mom around. So that's a whole other phase. Many of my clients focus on I need to be there when they're under two. I believe moms need to be there when they're 13. Two, a nanny can actually, explain how to use, how to tie shoes or how to learn ABCs.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it becomes much more complicated as they get older.
And is it physically complicated, mentally complicated, emotionally complicated, or all of the above?
Yes. Yes, all of the above. I actually think, people warned me when I had my children, they were 5 years and 1 day apart, all three. And they said, don't have too many children in diapers. But looking back on it, it's not about the diaper phase. It's about the middle school going into high school phase. It's about how do you make yourself available to help them?
And I have young children, elementary school age. So I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. What is it about that middle school time that makes it more challenging or requires you to be more present?
I think it's the gray zone, right? When they're little, like it's kind of like potty train, put your shoes on. It's kind of the basic stuff. When they get into the middle school years, it's very gray. And I think that's where one's personal values come in. And that's hard to find a nanny or babysitter to be able to substitute for what the family might be having as values.
Yes, hard to delegate that work. I see that. Well, tell me about Parental Pivot. I want to hear about that book and about how you help your clients with their own parental pivots.
It's rather a thick book, but that's Parental Pivot. And it just talks about like how to think about going on leave, being on leave, staying connected, and coming back and getting rid of the cobwebs. Because a lot of people, women in particular, they tend to take longer leaves, come back and they feel like they've kind of lost it. So there's a combination of the personal side where they're thinking about their kiddos and feeling sad about not being there. But there's also the professional side of feeling like they don't know what they're doing. And that's normal. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine.
And you mentioned that women feel that way. Do men feel that way too and just don't vocalize it?
I think there's a difference both in terms of length and in terms of attachment. The women, if I stereotype them, they come in the third trimester of pregnancy, organized, planful, figuring it out. They're more thoughtful and less reactive.
That really resonates with my experience after both of my leaves, where I was trying to, create a waterfall chart of how we how we would respond once we
Absolutely.
went through the
Well,
transformation.
I think women take on much more of the what I'll call the planning and emotional perspective. I may be really good at taking baby to the 3-month pediatrician check, but mom has figured out who the pediatrician is, where they are, made the appointment, done everything else around it. But dads are very good at executing.
Well, that's so core to the purpose and the mission of AI Empowered Mom, which is helping use AI to support the mental load, all those tasks that are related to planning and organizing and researching. Do you see a role for AI in parental pivots, as you've called them?
Humongous, right? Like, I don't know about you, but for me, ChatGPT is like my new best friend. I spend 2 hours a day on ChatGPT asking questions. So in my coaching business, if someone says, I think I want to change jobs to this, I just chat GPT it. What are the options? And I think in a parenting perspective, absolutely. We can just ask ChatGPT or AI, like, is this normal? Is this okay? It fills it in. I think the next generation of moms is going to be far more attuned to using AI, far more ease of access to information.
What will be the implications of an AI empowered generation of moms? They'll have more access to more information. Are there other advantages or are there downsides to this AI empowered generation of moms?
I think it's an interesting question because if one assumes everybody has good values and good judgment, then who cares that they know the very personal, very specific parts of your life? The scary thing is, what if that information gets out? So, for example, my chat GPT knows all about my new puppy, and it sent me a message and said, hey, I've got all this personal information. Do you want me to keep it or not? And I said, yes, keep it, because, there's nothing to hide. But I wonder going forward if, you're describing your child's problem with potty training, how much of that could get out into the public world. And I think right now the answer is it won't, but I don't know, 20 years from now, it's a little bit scary to it's almost like letting a third person into your marriage, right? They know you, they know the kids, they know the issues, et cetera, et cetera. So I think one has to be a little cautious. But on the flip side, on balance, I think AI is amazing for parents.
Well, one thing that really struck me when we visited before, Anna, was when you described how you used AI for your writing and the impressive depth and breadth of writing you have done and are doing, and how AI has supported you. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my first book, Maternity Magic, took about 2 years to write, 1,000 hours. My second book, Parental Pivot, took another 500 hours to include the men in the discussion. My next 6 books took 2 months because I could literally say, okay, here's what I want to talk about. I could download or upload my Maternity Magic and the Parental Pivot books and say, draw from this. Let's talk about that. Facts in the books that I would have had to, internet research would have taken hours. So AI has been a huge part of the success in launching 6 books this year.
Oh, 6 books in 1 year. So amazing. And is it still you? They're still written by you, or do you consider them written by you and AI?
They are definitely written by me. However, the AI has learned me a lot more. And then it pulls in stuff from stories I have told it about my children. So, for example, in one of the books, I will never forget this. I was on a board meeting with a Fortune 500 company, and my 2-year-old had decided to shove Skittles up her nose. And they were like pouring out red and yellow one side, the other side. So I'm on my business phone on the board. I'm on my personal phone with the pediatrician. And she's telling me to basically plug her nose and blow in her mouth so it will all come out. So there's stuff like that that you don't forget.
And
I
does
will
AI
never
know
forget.
those stories now and can help you infuse them in your work and in your
Yep. And
writing?
so AI will actually, and it has inserted the Skittles situation into one of the books.
I too have administered the mother's kiss, I think is what that's called. Anna, what do you say to working parents who, as they're thinking about what's next or their next pivot, and they're wondering if they can have it all, as people say? What's the thing that you tell them? Is that possible, having it all?
So I don't think of it as traditionally people think of it as like a balance, right? Work-life balance. No, never going to happen. I think of it as a wave. You're surfing a wave. You know kind of what's coming around. There may be a piece of driftwood in the middle that's going to throw you off, but you're surfing the wave. So yes, you can have it all, but it's not going to be static. It's going to be up and down depending on what life stage you're in. And the other thing I encourage people to think of is what I call the lifetime lifeline. So if you think of 0 being born and I don't know, 100 being dead, you've got a lifetime lifeline. The first 25 or so years, the first quarter, is the should years. I should go to school. I should get potty trained. I should whatever. And then you got 50 years in the middle that are the choice years. And let's assume the last 25 years are kind of should years as well, because you're in a nursing home or whatever. I'm grossly stereotyping here, but you got 50 years in the middle. So then the question becomes, which decade are you in? Which area do you want to press the accelerator on career? And which decade do you want to pull back and be there for your kids? And then there's other decades where they left the nest, in theory, though they boomerang back, but let's assume they left. Then I encourage them to think about like, where are you in that 50-year choice period? And what do you want to do?
I like the connotation that this is a choice period, that I have agency and I can choose how I
Mm-hmm.
am using and spending my time rather than what's happening to me or what I have to do. And that makes balance or achieving it all feel a little bit more possible because I have choices to make.
They're choices and they may be wrong and you can change them in 3 months' time, like whatever, things evolve. But think of it like, at work, you get, for many people, they get a performance and potential kind of 9 box, right? Like, how are you doing? How are you set up to do better? And everybody wants to be in the top right corner. But if you rethink that in terms of your relationship, your marriage, your parenting role, your daughter role, your community role, everything else, no one's going to actually ever stand up there, certainly not young children, and say, yes, Sarah, you're doing great. You have a high potential, but you're offline on this one. Like, no. So if you start to think of it as performance potential from the work world into your life world, then it paints a very different picture. And I think that is the foundation for figuring out, like, what do you want to have in the next 6 months, in the next year?
I love that. I do strive to be in the top box professionally, but personally, I give myself plenty of room because how could I ever be in the top right box with these twins and, new phases of parenthood that I know nothing about?
Well, and think about it. If you sleep 8 hours a night,
Mhm.
then you have 112 hours a week. Wake. Let's say work takes 50 hours. The other 62 hours, we don't really track what role we're playing. So you could almost take that 9 box of
Mhm.
performance and potential and make your little stars sized upon how much work you're doing, how much effort, how much quality time. And interestingly, 90% of clients, when they do this work, they forget to look at themselves. So there's no me star, which if we're not paying attention to ourselves and what we're able to do, what feeds us to be the best mom, spouse, whatever, then we're kind of missing the point there.
Yes.
So if the little me box is down in the bottom left corner, because I haven't had time for yoga or I didn't go for the bike ride or whatever it is, everything else fades.
That I really relate to this in a deep way. Personally, my me star is small right now.
Mm-hmm.
But here I am in my choice time, that this is a choice I am making. What do you say to parents who have let their me star shrink or shrivel down to a low box? How do you help them get back on track?
Well, I think the reality is the me box, if you neglect it enough, actually turns up in medical issues. So if one allows oneself to gain 50 pounds and drinks a bottle of alcohol every night or whatever, it works for a while. But if you're not taking care of me, how can you be the best person for those around you, spouse and children? So paying attention to the me box, I believe, is not selfish in the least bit. I believe it actually helps you to be a better person to others.
I set out to record a podcast with you, and I got the coaching session that I really need.
So you need to grow your me box because your potential is high, but your performance may be low. Seriously, like it's kind of like the decision to go back to work, right? Some moms will say that's a bad decision to go back to work because your kids need you. I would argue if that's what you want, if that's what you choose, your decision to go back to work actually makes you a happier human being, which makes you a better mom. And they're not really going to lose it if you don't change the diaper that day. And you're probably not going to be happy, itsy bitsy spider, like that gets boring after a few weeks.
Well, Anna, you've helped over 500 clients, written books, so much focus on motherhood and parenthood. How did you move from motherhood to focusing on another big, important, which is menopause, which I know is the topic of one of your new books?
Is another one, yes. The how to navigate menopause and sustain your career. So my clients generally are in their 50s with new kids, but those that are in their 50s, a theme started coming out around forgetting things, not feeling yourself, night sweats, not sleeping. Like there's a number of things that are physically well known to happen, and there's no support for it in the work. Which is crazy because your top leaders are probably in their 50s.
Right.
And so you've got a bunch of women, and again, I'm going to stereotype, but you got a bunch of women with a bunch of symptoms and zero support at work. Like we can laugh about 13-year-old girls and how they're, getting their period and they're all out of control, blah, blah, blah. But then we don't say anything about 50-something-year-old women who are also out of control and experiencing symptoms that scare them. So the book on menopause is all about two things. One, like personally, it's okay to have your own journey, but it's going to be different from everybody else's. And in the book, I have 10 women who speak of their journey through menopause, which I'm super proud. They're all friends of mine. And they tell their own story and where they went. It's very different. So half is personal, and the other half, though, is organizational, right? Is it acceptable for, let's say, a man to be like, oh, I see you're having hot flashes. Would you like a break from this meeting? Well, that's probably too far on one end of the scale. How do you get the organization to recognize and lower the temperature in the room? Give them a fan, take off the jacket, that kind of stuff. Be aware that maybe she's having an off moment and come back to it tomorrow. That's okay. It's better than her quitting and going into retirement.
Right. We talked about the role for AI, the role of AI for working parents. Is there a role for AI in supporting this great transition for moms and women?
Absolutely. I mean, first, make friends with your AI thing because it gets to know you. So when I wrote the book on menopause, I actually AI'd and asked it, like, what are the different experiences of women? What are the statistics on women leaving the workforce? All that background information. And I kind of laughed my ass off because AI came back a couple of days later. It's like, are you experiencing menopausal symptoms? Would you like a checklist? I mean, it was like thinking in the background somehow.
Checking in on you.
It was. And so I think AI from an informative perspective, I mean, it's great to feed information into books. But I also wonder if more women could be asking AI some very personal questions.
Anna, you've unlocked really another part of my passion and purpose for AI Empowered Mom, which is to encourage women moms, all women in general, and all caregivers to use AI for to suit their needs, because the more we use these tools, the more we are training them, and we're training them to know the human experience and what our needs and realities are. And if women aren't using them, then the tools continue to grow without knowledge of this topic that's so important to half the population, but isn't talked about as much. So I hope that women use AI to research or learn or
I
not
do
feel alone
too.
about menopause.
And I think with questions like on menopause, it's very interesting because it will also give the caveat of everybody's journey is different. You can consult a physician about this. Like, it doesn't overstep boundaries, but it does give a whole range of things. And I especially love the way you can download something. So it will always ask, do you want me to download a checklist? Do you want me to do this? I'm thinking, it's funny because sometimes I ask questions on behalf of other people. And I think, oh, is this like polluting my AI knowledge?
In ChatGPT, you can switch into transparent mode if you don't want it to go into your memory, just like you can
Oh,
use a dark
I did
browser.
not know that.
Yes, a hot tip. And I do that too sometimes when I'm working on a project that's not for me and I don't want it, just like you're saying, I don't want it to learn
Yeah.
that about me. So in the top right corner, you can click, at least in the browser version, I think you can click transparent mode and keep it out of your memory. Right. Anna, let's switch gears into what I am affectionately calling chatbot mode, where I'll just ask you a few rapid fire questions and you just let me know what first comes to mind. You're the chatbot now. What's your favorite AI tool?
ChatGPT.
I thought so. What about favorite use case for AI, favorite use for AI in your home life?
Everything. Okay, if I had to pick one, books, writing books,
What about favorite use for AI in your work life, in your coaching work?
researching topics for my clients.
One piece of advice you give most often to parents returning from work after leave.
Take a break, take a deep breath, and just go with it for 3 months, see where it goes.
Beautiful. A win that made you proud recently. Can we celebrate one of your wins?
Oh, a mom that went back to work who thought she was going to quit, who has figured out how to make it work.
You know what I loved, Anna, is that I asked you for your win, and your win was somebody else's win. So that says a lot about you and what kind of
My wins
person you
are
are.
my clients' wins. They really are.
Beautiful. Any other books or podcasts you would recommend to folks who are looking for their own possibilities?
So, Brainstorm for sure. Clifton Strengths. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Of Strengths Finder.
Yeah, Strengths Finder. And the reason I say that is I think women who are empowered and leaders in this world, we don't really have areas for development. We have opportunities to increase what we're doing well. And I think Clifton Strengths it's just an amazing way to reaffirm where are we really coming from. Other books, well, I'm a teacher of teachers of the Enneagram, so any wisdom. There's a book, Wisdom of the Enneagram, which is phenomenal. However, taking the online assessment is kind of useless because it will say, Sarah, you're a 6538, and you throw it in the garbage. And it's like, so you've got to work with a coach to help you self-discover what you are. And then that book is phenomenal as well.
Okay, last question is, what would you say to a parent who's curious about AI but hasn't tried it yet?
Just do it. Just do it. I mean, it's so simple, right? Like, you don't have to ask a deep, meaningful question. Like, my garden grew radishes last week. And I said, what do I do with like 24 radishes? And it says roast them. And I'm like, roast a radish? That's a weird thing. I thought you put them in salads. So you can start with really simple. The radishes were super delicious. I will actually go buy radishes when my radishes run out because they were delicious. But that's the kind of thing, like ChatGPT can be so simple to start. I don't think AI needs to be like, oh, I've got this big question. Like, it's almost like just start taking baby steps and let it learn you a little bit. Mine knows I have a baby puppy. It knows I have a vegetable garden. It knows what I don't like to eat. And so it learns. It's almost like it's weird. It's almost like having a best friend that never tells you off.
Unless you ask it to.
And I'm sure it would. In fact, now I'm thinking I'm going to have to ask ChatGPT, like, what can I be doing better in my life? And it will probably give me a very thorough evaluation.
Wow, that's a prompt I love, and I got some real talk from it. Knowing everything you know about me now, ChatGPT. What are my blind spots, or what are some things I should be
Uh-huh.
considering? I love that real talk from AI when I'm
Okay, I'm
ready to
going to
take it.
try that after this call. I have to figure out how to. Then again, might not like the answers, but
Well, that's a perfect note to wrap on. Anna, thank you so much. I'm going to leave this conversation, I think, feeling validated about how AI can help us make big decisions. It can't make big decisions for us, but it can get to know us, help us along the way. And whether it's returning to work, navigating big changes, or you're navigating the changing of your body, AI tools can help you with the mental load and support you along your journey.
I would agree. I think it will help us educate ourselves so we can make informed choices. Because
Beautifully
it's
said.
at the end of the day our choice, but it's another voice weighing in that's probably smarter than mom or dad's voice.
Beautifully said. And if listeners want to connect with you or explore more, they can find you on LinkedIn as Anna Minto, Minto. And I know your website is youarepossible.club.
They can also just give me a call or book a 15-minute intro chat, which is at speakwithanna.com. Super easy too.
Speakwithanna.com. Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here, Anna. And thanks to everyone for listening to AI Empowered Mom. I hope today gave you maybe a little clarity, some confidence, and left you feeling a little bit empowered to try something new with AI. If something resonated, let us know. Either send me a DM on Instagram at AI Empowered Mom or send me an email at contact@AIEmpoweredMom.com. We'd love to hear what stuck with you, and we'll see you next time. Thank you again.